All right, hi everyone, and welcome to a new stream here for the weekly outlook for the week of 8/21/2022. And we're going to start our day here by looking at the potential ER uh, for um, for the coming week. Some of the names that pop up for me here that I'd be interested in is Zoom. We have Intuit, as well as NVDA on Wednesday, and AFRM and Peloton. Well, I'll be kind of interested to see how they do. These guys here on Thursday. It's worth noting over here that on NVIDIA, we have the consensus earning estimate is 58 cents per share on revenue of $8.1 billion dollars. And the investor sentiment going into the company's earnings release has 59% expecting an earnings beat to the company's guidance for the earnings. And as far as Zoom goes, the consensus earnings estimate is 93 cents per share and on revenue of $1.1 billion dollars, and the investor sentiment going into the company's earnings has 57% expecting an earnings beat as well on the company's guidance. Salesforce is another name that is also interesting here. It's also on Wednesday. We have a consensus for them for earnings at $1.02 per share on revenue of $7.7 billion dollars. And the investor sentiments going into the company's earning release has a 70% expecting an earnings beat. This is really a high number, I would say. Peloton, on the other hand, the consensus estimate for the ER is a loss of 70 cents per share on a revenue of $722 million dollars. And the investor sentiment going into the company's earning release has a 2% expecting an earnings beat on the company's guidance. Very low number. And as far as Peloton goes, the consensus earnings estimate is $2.30 per share on a revenue of $1.5 billion dollars, and investor sentiment going into the company's earning release has an 83% expecting an earnings beat on the company's guidance. So this information was actually brought to you here by the earning whispers and these investor sentiments as well. The second thing that we would like to look at over here is going to be the economic calendar. And go ahead and add it over here real quick to see what's gonna be coming up on this coming week. And it doesn't seem like there's anything of importance on Monday. Tuesday has at 10 o'clock Eastern Time the new home sales. The consensus showing about 575,000, which is a reduction from the previous report. I expect these numbers to continue to drop, the existing home sales and the new home sales, as expectations of interest rate to be increasing. That's gonna make it a little bit more expensive for people to borrow and buy homes, and so that'll probably show a reduction in the overall permits for building new homes and new home sales, as well as existing home sales. On Wednesday, we have at 8:30 Eastern, before market open, we have the core durable goods report, which basically shows strength in manufacturing. It's worth noting over here that transportation numbers are actually excluded from this report just because orders on airplanes are very volatile and can actually make a big difference on this report, so they exclude that. So that's why the core durable goods is the important one over here rather than the durable goods. We have also at 10:30 Eastern the crude oil inventories. On Thursday, we have the GDP report. And we have a forecast of negative 0.8%, which is expecting a bit of an improvement from the previous one. And we have Jackson Hole speaking on Thursday as well at looks like here at 9 Central, which is after market open. Well, before market open, I'm sorry. I'm going on Central Time, so that's why it's always I get confused if I don't remind myself. And of course, we have the initial jobless claims, which shows a prediction of an increase from the last report, which I think that's what the Feds would like to see in an attempt for them to try to fight inflation. And as far as Friday goes, 8:30, we have the core PCE price index, and yeah, that's about it. We have also Jackson Hole talking and on Saturday, but that really doesn't matter because that's not a trading day. So, without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the charts, starting with futures on ES, and see how things are going and what's gonna be the plan for this coming week. So starting here, we're gonna just remove all the lines over here, and we're gonna start with a higher time frame, starting with the weekly. And as you guys can see from we talked about it in a previous video where we showed like lower lows and lower highs up to this point over here, upwards of about 4,200 area, which is a very key level. And we dropped all the way down to about the 3600. After that, we pushed back up. We had an amazing run. We had like one, two, three, four, uh, five green weeks in a row. And after that, which was last week, we actually saw the drop. And so it wasn't so much of a drop. Let's just say it may be the beginning of another drop, but we're going to talk about the key levels that we're going to be looking at here shortly. So to put the drawings back here on the chart, just give me a second to go ahead and zoom back in. Go back on the daily first. As you guys can see here, I just connected a line from the tops that we had over here, kind of like try to see if we're forming some kind of a wedge over here. It's a huge wedge for a very large time frame, but it was just kind of see, hey, are we gonna hit this level and continue, or are we gonna reject? We didn't quite hit higher than what was it, the number that we hit? Yeah, somewhere about 43.25 or so. I was hoping that we could just come back up here, touch this 43.45 area. I would have actually taken a short on this one at this level. I didn't want to start my short here. Just because we broke over the 4,300 and I wanted to see what's going to happen next. Are we going to hold over the 4,300 or are we going to reject it? And as you guys can see, we had a rejection over here. We held briefly over the 4,300 and then we rejected. To go back on the weekly, just to see how our strat friends usually would look at it, this would have triggered somewhat what they call a 2-2 reversal, where you have basically a 2 down on the weekly and basically breaking below this 2 candle, I guess. So they would expect it to probably drop all the way down over here. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I'm not sure if I'm actually doing this right on the strat, but what I know is I have 4,200 as a very key level. Why is this as a key level? Well, as you guys can see, this 42 represented the previous high or the lower high that we had on that weekly, where we had this kind of a downtrend channel. And until we have broken above this 4,200, the downtrend was still valid. And so we broke above it. Now, this is the moment of truth. Are we going to reject over here in this area, or are we going to continue to the downside? The other thing that is also worth looking at is, are we We are actually in this somewhat of an uptrend channel. If you go ahead and put like a regression trend on it, you'll be able to see that, it's kind of respecting it in a way. We have this pink channel here, and we've respected the support on it a few times before. So the 4200 here represents a support, and I expect it to actually reject. However, if we break below it, that doesn't really give a whole lot of room for us to go to the downside because you have downwards of about what? 4175 area, maybe 4173 area that we could probably touch and reject over here because still, until we break below this level over here of around 4080 or so, technically this little uptrend channel is still valid. You want to make lower lows and lower highs to confirm the break of this little uptrend channel. And so for the plan for tomorrow, which not gonna lie, I kind of hate that this move is happening overnight. We gapped down a little bit and we came down here to visit this 4200 level. I expect this little gap here to be filled tonight. So if you're trading futures, I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but usually I like to play these little gap fills, especially that we're not showing a whole lot of strong move, and this is a very solid support over here. I expect it to move back up here and fill upwards of about 42.25 to 42.28 area. Um, Again, I don't like that they tested this area over here, in the Globix session. That's not really what I look forward to. I like it to happen during higher volume times, and so to see what the actual reaction is going to be. So if you want to discount it, and you're looking at SPY per se rather than ES, you wouldn't have known that this thing happened overnight, and you're not going to see it on the chart. And so would still for me 4202 area is going to be as a key level. If we end up breaking below it tomorrow, I would be willing to take a short, maybe a little bit below the 4200 and take it all the way down to about 4187. Now to the upside, I would say you would like to see a break above, I would say, let's just move this line a little bit above this high over here, about 42.45. So, um, with that being said, that makes this area over here kind of somewhat of a no trade zone for me, unless we reject over here heavily and we see like a very, bullish action with an engulfing candle or so. But for me, I would think that, okay, this area between 4,200, it's going to be kind of, a risky trade if I want to take the rejection over here and just try to say, okay, might have like a very tight stop loss, but it could actually go through it real quick tomorrow. And so I would like to see it to claim another level, maybe 42.20, take it to 42.40, or even take it above the 42.45. If this level, however, was taken, there is a good chance for, a move for 20 points to the upside to 42.60, which we've said before was also another important level over here. As you guys can see, this region over here rejected it as a support multiple times, so gaining it is going to be key. And of course, from there, I would look for upwards targets of 4280 and 4300 again. And I would expect this thing to continue. Now, where would I be willing to take a reversal play? Probably somewhere down here, about 4170 or so. I would think it will be worth taking the risk. However, it really depends on the overall circumstances and what it looks like. And as you may know, we always take a look at tradie flow. We take a look at the market flow or the net flow tool, and especially when we're day trading, and try to figure out what's going to be our next step, is the flow showing bullish sentiment or bearish sentiment, and we go from there. So, that usually helps a little bit if we were trying to take a reversal play, perhaps, or even a breakout play. It sometimes tells us if we are going to, drop or more than likely drop or go back up. If you guys can see the video that I posted, I believe on Friday, where I explain how to use the NetFlow tool, and I explained in an example for Friday morning how this play took place over here, and we had the market, move up a little bit, and from there we dropped down like we see it over here. We had like a move down overnight. We moved back up in the morning, but the flow was showing very bearish. So that usually means just go ahead and sell pretty much every rip, right? So as well as, we always take a look at ADD over here, and if it was showing a sell-off, just like here in the beginning of the market, it was showing a sell-off in the beginning of the market. After that, it was very choppy. But I always keep an eye on both of these as well as the levels that I have, and that's how I determine my trade on it. Next thing I'm going to take a look at over here is going to be Dixie. Just give me one second. Excuse me, I had to cough. Still COVID positive, so let's go ahead and take a look at the dollar index. And we spoke about it before as well on Dixie, and we said that if we break above this level over here, these will be very well legitimate targets. And the US dollar is ripping, and honestly, right now, it's not showing any signs of weakness. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see it test upwards of 108, 711 area over here, and from there probably even try to test this level up here of 109.28 area. If I see a pullback on it, probably would, if we see some kind of a strong pullback, I wouldn't think that it will go any lower than this 107.50. But why is it important to take a look at Dixie? Well, if you're trading futures, obviously this is going to be the US dollar is going to be one of the things that you will be trading. And the other thing is that usually when the US dollar goes up, that usually means bearish sentiment on equities. And the reason why is because investors, they just drop their money in the US dollar, and basically selling equities. And so, showing the strength in Dixie over here, and the weakness that we're seeing here in ES, or the relative weakness, I should say, does make perfect sense, honestly. So maybe if Dixie goes upwards of this region over here, we might see somewhat of a potential reversal area or a correction, and that could coincide with, ES going to this level over here down to like 4173 area, and maybe with the correction happening on Dixie, you'll see a reversal happening over here, and probably come back and start testing these levels. It's very important whenever you have key level, mark them differently than your targets. Like usually my key levels are marked in red. Usually that will indicate an entry for a trade, whether, break above or below it. And these white ones usually indicate the target for that trade. So that's as far as Dixie goes. Go back here and take a quick look at oil. It's one of those things that, future traders absolutely love to trade. It's very difficult, in my opinion. It's not an easy thing to trade just because of the volatility that could happen in it. Definitely could make or break. Honestly, if I want to take a look at it here without any lines or without anything, I'm going to go ahead and start looking at the large time frame, starting with the weekly. We had looks like a little bit of a almost like a hammer looking week over here. But we opened below that close of last week over here, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see oil come back and test somewhere down here around $85. The key thing is that this level, as you guys can see, where it shows, let me just go ahead, I'm going to remove all drawings and add just a little line over here. This area over here is used to be a resistance, came back down, broke right through it, came back down. Here we are testing it. And so we can see a little bit consolidation in this region over here in the 80s. And unless something, crazy happens, I think we're gonna probably see a little bit of consolidation in this area and maybe even a break below. If we break below this level over here of this 85, we could come down and test this $80 level. Against all predictions that we used to hear when the war between Russia and Ukraine started, that hey, oil is going to hit $200 this summer and whatnot. Hey, we're towards the end of August, and you know, we haven't seen that happening. And so, the highest that oil went up to was touched about 130 or so a barrel, and that was a brief moment. And it rejected from there, came back, mitigated from that area, and there we go again down. So you could probably see, movement upward, maybe even towards the 90s or the 100. Unless we break over the 100, I wouldn't be thinking bullish on oil. I really would like to see it break even above 102.06 for me to see it go a little bit higher. And even then, the 110, 113 area will show a very strong resistance for it. And so, a break of this level, could take you down to 80, this 81 area, 81.94 actually. And from there, we can see even a drop, even believe it or not, maybe somewhere towards the 70s. Excuse me. Gold is another chart that I always like to look at every week. Unfortunately, there was a break that happened overnight on Thursday night that I was wanting to take a trade on it. On GLD, actually, I wanted to play it in options. However, unfortunately, break of the 1770 happened kind of overnight. I was waiting for it and I figured, okay, well, gold is going to drop and just continue probably all the way down. Here's GLD. This is where I had the chart marked. Maybe if this thing comes back and retests around 163 and rejects, I will try to enter this trade with targets showing at 161.98, basically 162. And from there, I could probably see it going all the way down to 160. And as you may know, gold usually moves in the opposite direction of US dollar. When the US dollar goes up, gold goes down, and vice versa. That's not to say that they haven't moved in the same direction before, but that's usually the general relationship between them. Whenever the dollar goes up, investors sell gold and buy US dollar, and when gold goes up, they sell US dollar and buy gold. Um, Alrighty, so we looked at the major indexes over here. One interesting chart that I want to start by looking at today is Square. And I will tell you why I think it's really interesting. So, I'm gonna combine some of the tools that we use in our Discord for from Traditex. Thankfully, we were able to learn and utilize a lot of the tools that they have, not just the net flow, and obviously not just the option flow, because that could be very misleading when you see large sweeps coming in for SPY or for Square. That could mean absolutely nothing. They could be just hedges. They could be just tricks. And so what we want to know is that what is the market sentiment for a particular stock? And so Normally, a good rule of thumb is that whenever you want to look for calls, you look for calls on a green day, right? Or whenever the market is looking green. And you look for puts when the market is looking red. And that gives you a higher chance because sell-off is fueled by fear and buying is fueled by greed. And so if the market is buying and everyone is buying, you have higher chances when you're in a call and vice versa. Now, if you're trying to play against the market, that's going to make it a little bit difficult because, chances are your stock is not going to be ripping unless it's a short squeeze when the market is actually going the opposite direction. And the same thing, if you're taking a put on a stock, unless you're swinging a long term and the market is ripping, chances are you're not going to see a major sell-off on your stock unless there was some sort of a catalyst that caused it to do so. So I'm looking at Square over here. The first level that I was watching, as you guys can see, was around the $75. Reason why I wanted to watch this level is because there was a rejection over here back in May. And we came down, visited this area, rejected, and we moved up from there. And then we came back down over here. The sell-off over here was triggered by the break of this level. Then we came down all the way towards the 56 or so and slowly and gradually came back up, tested this $90 area, and there we go back again, testing this $75 region. Now, there is this little trend line over here that was very well respected all the way back from June, and I would probably expect that it will be highly respected. So the first trade idea would have been maybe taking a call over here around $75, just in the hopes that, hey, if this thing rejects over here, I will have a very tight stop loss, maybe somewhere under $72 or so. And if this thing rejects from here, I can see it going back to test $80. And from there, we have a point of control upwards of about $88. Now, I didn't take action on this trade. And just because the market was selling, again, the market was showing red, I wasn't going to try to take a call on it. And so now my own thought is that if the market continues the sell-off, I would think that Square is probably going to continue going down to probably touch this line over here. But what is very interesting over here, the main thing that I see super interesting is that the sentiment or the algo flow on Square has been bullish, and I will share that over here on the chart. Just give me 1 second, and I will explain it in details as well. So just go ahead and make it a little bit more clear for you to see. So as you guys can see over here on the algo flow, basically the yellow line over here represent the price of Square. The green line over here represents the volume of calls or the flow of calls that is coming in on Square. So if you want to put this over here and try to compare it, you can see that the price has been dropping, but the volume of calls has been increasing. Now, there is no earnings coming up. We've already had the earnings back in the beginning of August. And so that was before this whole chart actually took place. And so the calls is shown consistently higher, pretty much, except for maybe I would say on, towards the end of the day on Friday, kind of slowed down a little bit, but it was kind of picking up all throughout the day. And so add in that. In addition to well, actually, I'm gonna keep this one over here. And in addition to that, uh, I was actually looking at another chart or another set of data that basically prompted me to look at Square. We have a tool called the recent algo divergences. This one over here shows me where there is a divergence, meaning that the price probably going down and the volume of calls is going up, or if the price is going up and the volume of puts is going up, right? Like for example, over here, Netflix, we have a bearish divergence. If you want to look at Netflix, you'll see that the price is probably going up and the calls are going up. Here, in this case of something like Square, we're showing that the price is going down and it's very bullish. What does that mean? Meaning that the calls, as we saw over here, the calls volume is increasing. Another thing that we want to take a look at over here is the sectors, that was really interesting to also look at. I will also bring that one up here. And all of these commands are available for all of our members in our Discord to actually take a look at. And if you look at the sectors over here, we're just going to bring it up. You guys can see, let's try to make it here a little bit more clear for everyone. There's been a lot of money pouring in utilities, financials, and technologies. Now, Square actually falls under technologies. And so this command over here that we have for sectors, which goes as T hyphen SECROT, will actually show you where the money is actually being poured right now. And so right now, a lot of money is being poured in utilities, financials. So keep an eye on the financials, in industrials, consumer staples, and right over here around midway is technology. Again, that's where Square actually falls. It's kind of falling as an technology company. And the last thing I want to take a look at over here is the net flow for Square. So if we want to take a look at the net flow for Square, we would see that this is probably showing a little bit, on the bullish side. So let me just go ahead and get that chart for you to show you what I am looking at. It's probably taking a minute to actually pull that data. Square, and we're gonna look for 530 as well and try to pull that up. So there goes the first one over here. This is the 530, meaning that the data as of 5 days, for the past 5 days or the 5 trading days, uh, bring in the flow for options that expire within 30 days. And as you guys can see, there's been a large spike in the calls. And this is what we call over here a bullish cross. Now, mind you that the puts are not easy either, but that would explain also, that these are ones that are capitalizing on the move that is going to the downside right now. But after the puts have been increasing, as you guys can see over here, we have the calls picking up, and we're reaching a very key area over here. So that will indicate the possibility that we're going to actually see a reversal. There's a lot of money pouring in and a lot of call volume that's coming in. And so this will be a very nice, I would say, possible swing trade. And even if you want to day trade it, you could definitely do so. But you can actually going in with a bias, thinking, okay, well, I'm going to try to see every possible rip. I'm going to day trade it until we get to these key levels that I would see. So first key level for me is going to be around $80. Again, as you guys can see, I determined the target by seeing this is an area of interest. It rejected here previously, came back, consolidated, and broke and sold from here. So if we broke down all the way down to around, let's just say $70. 70 is a whole number, and that is a $5 increment. These are usually key areas for me. I would definitely think, okay, this is probably a possibility. Once you see a reversal over here or some kind of engulfing candle, any sort of confirmation, I'll be willing to to take a stab at it, especially if we have a green day. First target from here will be about $75, and from there I would say 80, and we might have a rejection over here and a retest around the 75 and a continuation back upwards of I would think 85 to 88 is definitely not out of the question if we had some strong volume. Now I'm going to take a look over here at excuse me, delete this, that's not what I meant to have. I'm going to take a look at the volume profile for this move to the downside from here to here. As you guys can see, the point of control shows right around 88.37. So, it's not out of the question that this will probably change, but it's not out of the question if we actually drop from here, we can come back and test this level and then this level. We probably visit the value area low first, around $83 or so. But again, these numbers might change just because the range is going to change by the time that we reach this area if we do. And, it will be an actionable trade. Um, so yeah, definitely this is one of the ones that I'm looking at. Let's take another stock over here to take a look at. I want to take a look at a firm. This is a trade that I actually started last week, but I ended the same day because I was pretty upset, honestly, that I didn't hold. It was, I'm gonna remove. Well, actually, we'll keep the volume profile because it was a key in my trade. However, I would say over here that we had a level of interest over here at around the 3608. So the day started over here on Thursday, went right through this level around 3608, but $35, $5 increments. Always remember that that will change the way that you trade. I took a trade actually, I started it on the break of this level, and I figured, okay, well, we could probably, if we come down and continue, we can start here at 35, maybe even all the way down here to 34, 35, will be a nice day trade. And if we break and hold, I will hold for the rest of the week or so. But what ended up happening on that day is that we broke and then we chopped and we continued chopping. And knowing that there's earnings coming, the IV was very high. Actually, the contracts that I had, which were at the money whenever I took the trade, they really were not moving. Absolutely not moving. I ended up going out on break even though we had moved quite a bit, I would say almost 80 cents or so. I would have liked to see some, at least a little bit of profit, but that didn't happen. Um, you know, it was only to wake up the next morning with it actually hitting all targets and going all the way down to this level of $30. Now, another thing that will be worth looking at is that with a firm, right now at this level where it's at, even though there's earnings coming, I think I looked at a firm's prediction. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the beginning um, of the video or not. But nonetheless, I would say where it sits right now, a firm is probably a call because we have this little trend line that we have, this little orange trend line that's been very well respected, and it happens to also be another support over here in this area. So maybe we can try to say, okay, is there's a bullish sentiment on it or not? So what we're going to do is we're going to look for the algo flow for a firm and see what is the deal on this one. And by looking at this one, holy smokes, look at this chart and see this is not telling you exactly where the reversal point for it, but it tells you a lot. So when we look at it over here, at this chart for the algo flow, what can you see? Well, the price has been dropping, but what else has been going the opposite way? We have absolutely huge spike in interest of calls on a firm. We are reaching this level over here, and we are, this is a support area, and we know that earnings are coming up. That's going to be on the 25th. And there's just a huge spike in volume. Now, mind you, that could be just because of the earnings, but that will tell me that, there's a high interest in or like a high expectation from investors that a firm is going to beat earnings expectations on the guidance provided by the company. And if that happens, a firm is one of those stocks that will probably move quite a bit of dollars. And so, the IV on these contracts are going to be huge. But as you guys can see, this stock at one point in time traded at really high value. And whether it's worth it or not, that's not the subject. But there's a really high interest in calls. So, I mean, I guess if earnings weren't here, because I don't really like to trade earnings, it's really more like a coin flip. I would say, we'll revisit this one, but just to try to test our tool over here and see, hey, there's a lot of there's a lot of interest in calls. Maybe people are taking out of the money calls, a lot of out of the money calls as a lotto. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe someone knows something that we don't. And so, I wouldn't be surprised, if on earnings day to see this thing move upwards of $40 or even higher, maybe even 46 or 80. This is a very volatile stock. It could definitely move. Let's take a look at another stock over here. We have NVIDIA. And let's go ahead and move the volume profile on it. One thing that comes to mind over here when I'm looking at this chart is a real quick pattern here for head and shoulders. We have this one here. There's the right shoulder, or the left shoulder, I'm sorry, the head, and there's the right shoulder. We broke below it and we came back down over here. So earnings are coming up. There's a high investor sentiment that they're going to beat earnings, and but that doesn't mean anything. Just because they beat earnings does not mean that they're not going to provide a crazy guidance for the next period. They might provide a very weak guidance, and it's all about the guidance right now. And so, if they beat earnings and they have a bad guidance, this thing could drop and test all the way down over here of about maybe I would say maybe 168 or so, or even lower, around 167. The other option would be is if they beat and they provide a really good guidance for the coming period, we might see a move to the upside, testing upwards of 187 or so. But all in all, when I'm looking at it over here, if I want to look at a higher time frame, kind of looking at a larger picture, this area over here seems to be somewhat of a resistance. We rejected here before, back in June. We rejected again in the beginning of August. We rejected this region again in mid-August, and now we created a lower low. So we might have a little bit of retracement and a continue for a drop. I honestly expect a drop, but then again, this is just my opinion. If, again, I don't trade earnings and I really don't like to trade a stock that has earning the week of, just because the volatility is going, or the IV is going to be crazy. And so you're going to end up paying way too much for what the contract that you're going to be buying. And, if the stock ends up consolidating like that, you're just going to end up losing a lot of money for it. And so why would you be in that position? Just don't trade these that are not going to be, just don't treat these ones that are going to have earnings the week of, unless, you catch a really huge move on one of these catalysts before earnings or so. That's all good and dandy. But, we've seen it in the past where there's been leaks for earnings and things go the opposite way, and it's just kind of hard to recover from losses like that. And so, best thing to do is just to stay away from these ERs. However, it's really interesting to always take a look at them and just try to predict where the stock is going to go next. Looking at NVIDIA over here, we had like this beautiful downtrend channel. They came back and broke it above this 160 area, and from there it went back up, came back and retested this support, and went up again from there, went all the way, tested this area over here, almost like a golden box area and our golden box region. Tested there, retraced, came back. Again, there's this area over here that becomes your new golden box. mitigate it, and drop down. So personally, I think as long as we stay below this 178.88 area or this level, if I'm going to go ahead and just mark it, I would say NVIDIA is probably going to keep going down to at least this level down here. The next chart I want to take a look at is BABA. I actually didn't prep for these particular charts before this video. The reason why is because this is what I normally do. I just go on at the charts and look at them and start analyzing and say, okay, what's going to be the next move? What's going to be the next move? Excuse me. And so for Baba over here. So it's been staying at this level for some time. I would say last week it was kind of like difficult to trade. We've already had our earnings. So I would say now the next level that you need to watch for, it's probably good for day trades or so. Unfortunately, it does make moves pre-market or after hours sometimes. It makes it very difficult. Um, I would say the break of Thursday's low right over here. It's not a whole lot of meat on the bone, I guess, but this would be a good day trade if it breaks it during the day. I would say a break of 88.54, take it down to 87.54 as target one, and perhaps about 87 as target two. If we break even below that, not sure if this is going to happen or not, but if we do, then you probably have a big drop or a bigger drop down to upwards, probably I would say 85.30 or so. And so this will be a possible play on BABA. On the upside, however, you want to see a break above a previous day. So you take a look at it over here. It's really not that much meat on the bone to the upside. Overall, we do look like if we, if I want to remove my poorly drawn downtrend channel, I would say if you drew a regression trend for this region over here and go on whichever time frame you'd like to go to, chances are I would say we'll probably continue down to probably visit somewhere down the low 80s eventually. So I am a little bit short biased on BABA, to be honest, just because of the way that this is looking. We can take a look perhaps at the algo flow for it and see what it's looking like. Just one second, and I will share it here with you. It really doesn't say a whole lot from the chart, from the algo flow. I'll go ahead and share it with you guys. As you can see over here, the price has been going down, and so are the puts. And so that's below the zero. This thing is like a very strong bullish, I'm sorry, bearish sentiment. And so I don't see any bullish sentiment on it overall. I would say this is probably one of the warning levels. If it breaks, we can definitely try to take a stab at it over here. And definitely if we break below this level over here, actually, I'm going to change this one to red, and I'm going to put an alert on it. Because if we break below this level over here, chances are we are going to come down and see this 85.30. So this might not be such a bad idea, like a trade idea for us to watch it and see what's going to happen with it. It's a very clean area over here, all in all, if we break below this level over here. So just, mark your chart, mark your alerts, and especially, if we are looking at a red day on ES, um, um, that would be something that you would be looking for. You're going to be looking for puts, right? On the call side, on the other hand, I would say probably I would wait for the break above $92. And from there, I would be targeting this area of about $94 for this little gap fill area. And so go ahead and just mark both potential targets. So the first one is going to be right around here, 92.64. And the second one is going to be somewhere up here at around $94. That's where it fills this gap over here, if you guys can see it. And yeah, from there, honestly, I wouldn't be trying to stay in calls unless we break above this area over here of 97.76. At that point, I would expect a break outside of this downtrend if we break above this 97.71. So it's technically in a downtrend until we break above that. Once we break and hold above that, I would expect BABA to test upwards of 103.15 area. Um, Tesla, I think, was another one that we wanted to take a look at. Not gonna lie, Tesla's been on my ish list. I do not trade it anymore. Usually, I place a stock that has hurt me on the ish list just because that keeps me from revenge trading. You have a list like this one over here. And so far, I have Tesla, Pfizer, Mara, Riot, and Walgreens. Walgreens really didn't hurt me bad, actually. I just think I was in a trade for forever on it, and it just was not moving, and I get antsy and I get bored. And so eventually I closed, and the sucker moved after that. So I just thought, it really does not move like the way you would expect a stock would move. I just did not like it. So it's fallen under this list. Meta fell on and off this list so many times. Tesla just recently got added to it. So yeah. But I'm going to look at it just because others like to trade it as well. And so, it's pretty, pretty plain, simple type of chart over here. As you guys can see, we have this little channel over here. It's almost like a little downtrend channel. It's actually very clean. When you trade Tesla, Tesla traders are, I guess, a different breed of traders. So there is your channel over here. The high of day on Friday, what was it? About 901.08. Problem is that we have a split coming up on Tesla. So this thing could actually go bonkers on the split. You know, don't shoot me for hope in this, but I kind of hope after the split this thing tanks. Um, you know, Elon has already sold, and I'm not sure if that's a sign for something, but it would be nice to actually see this thing drop down and probably visit this region over here somewhere around the low 800s. But as of right now, I would say, you know, unless we break outside of this channel over here, but it looks almost like a bull flag, but it's really too long of a flag to be a bull flag. I would say this is somewhat of a downtrend channel. If we break outside of this downtrend channel, you're still going to have a lot of resistance upwards of 920 area. So not a whole lot of movements on it. It's not a large dollar move, I would say. So have very conservative targets if you're trading it. Now to the downside, if we break below 877.18, I would say we could probably see all the way down to 850. Again, I would be a little bit more I think the way that the setup is looking is probably favoring more towards the downside than it is to the upside. Let's take a look at the algo flow and see what it looks like for Tesla. And we'll share it over here. So Tesla's been having very bearish sentiment, looks like. I will show you the chart over here. And as you guys can see, this is only taken as of Friday, by the way, but as you guys can see over here, even though the prices try to recover a little bit over here, not a whole lot, that's the sentiment of the bearish sentiment has been, very strong. This is a large spike in bearish sentiment over here, or bearish flow, I should say. So these are actually reflecting puts that were bought on the stock. Yeah, that doesn't mean that this is going to go down, but when I look at the chart over here, I see it that honestly, I would favor a drop we are in a trend until we're not. And so, until we break outside of this channel, we are still in this channel. And so you're likely to do better if you actually trade this channel, going from support to resistance until you're not. Once it breaks above the support, you close your trade and, hard luck. And if it doesn't break above the support and it just continues to the downside, then you banked. And so, but again, this is on my ish list. I'm not going to trade it, but this is what I see on this one here. I would think even if it goes to the upside and shows some rejection over here, it'll probably be safe to go ahead and try to take a short on it. And even if it didn't even give that chance and it breaks below this low over here on Friday that's just to make sure that we actually have the exact amount. That low is $877.50 to the penny. So if it breaks below that low, you know, I would say, we can probably take it to the bottom of this channel over here, which could be about, 860 or so at that time, or it could even go all the way down to 850. I would stop there, even if it was making a lot of money, just because this is an area that rejected previously around from 857 all the way down to 850. This is an area that rejected, and so I'll be very careful with that. But there's too much interest in Tesla right now just because of the split coming up. So it wouldn't, surprise me to see the market makers burning everyone. And so everybody's thinking Tesla's gonna moon just because it's gonna split. And so they're probably trying to buy, especially retails. I'm talking retail traders. They're trying to buy calls, 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 calls. And, the price keeps going down. And so even for those who are buying downs, because believe it or not, market makers, burn each other as well. And so that someone with bigger pockets could actually keep the price chopping in a certain region and not make the options that were bought by another market maker uh, worth anything. And so you just have to have very conservative targets whenever you're trading. You will do better whenever you add up small gains with very conservative, realistic targets. We would all love to take a trade on Tesla, taking it from 800 or $900 all the way down to 800 or $700 or so. That'll be great. But that's not what happens every day. You'll have the stock dropping down a little bit here, going back up, drop down. It's like a staircase type thing, right? And so this is one of those things where, like, look at this day over here. This was, I don't know, this was Thursday, I think. Yeah. So look at Thursday. Thursday was an awful day to trade it. I mean, we had this little triangle, symmetrical triangle on it, which I absolutely hate. And unless you held, if you were in a trade on a put for it, unless you held past Thursday, um, you wouldn't have made any money on that put from then. This is the same day that I was in AFRM's put where we chopped quite a bit. Thursday I guess became the new Wednesday. I'm not sure. So it used to be Wednesday where the market chops a lot, but lately I've been seeing that happening on Thursday more and more often. The last ticker I'm going to look at tonight is AMD. One of the things I was talking about on, actually, it was Thursday as well. I really liked the possibility for a put play on it. And so we were in this uptrend channel over here. As you guys can see, I drew a regression trend on it and an uptrend channel as well in the orange. I'm going to remove the regression trend just to make the chart a little bit cleaner. And I'll go ahead and move my little doodles over here as well. And so I really wanted to take a put on it on Thursday. Honestly, I'm not sure why I didn't, but it would have paid very, very, very well. But we broke below this channel over here. We came back up and we retested the support of this channel very, very clean. And from there, boom, drops. And you could have taken this low over here as an entry for a put. It still, I think, is going to target 93.79 personally, especially with a red day if we end up having that on ES. I wouldn't think about calls on AMD unless it breaks above $102. Um, as of right now, as it sits right now, I would say $102 is the way to take calls on it. However, you have to keep in mind NVIDIA calls. These are one of the stocks that will have sympathy moves with NVIDIA. So let's just say NVIDIA, although we had a bear sentiment on it, like we said, personally, I have a bear sentiment on it. If Nvidia ends up ripping, so will AMD. Chances are, I mean, they're in the same business, and these two pretty much, go hand in hand as sympathy plays. However, I would think a really nice, decent play on AMD. Again, if we didn't have NVIDIA involved in this picture, I think AMD is going to come down and test this 93.75 level, and from there we will see the $90 area. From the $90 area, I would think that we probably have some kind of a rejection and a retest upwards of this area, kind of like where there's a lot of consolidation over here. This becomes somewhat of a golden box, so we could probably see something like this. You'll have like a drop over here perhaps, and we don't know, it could go all the way down over here, or it could reject and come back over here, retest, and boom. But it will be a lot cleaner if we actually broke below here and retested this level and continued. Again, this seems to be going hand in hand with our analysis on ES, where we would expect it to drop down to 4170 area, and if it drops down to that level, very well could see $5 drop on AMD. That's not out of the question. And so it could come down and move back up with ES as well. So at the end, I think these are all the tickers that I have here for tonight. If you guys, have any questions, feel free to DM me. We're gonna make these weekly. Streams going consistently every week, and even on the weeks that I'm unable to, I'll make sure that hopefully Christian will be able to do that. If you guys have any questions or any concerns, feel free to let me know. And for the free members, I would love to see you in our premium service and have access to all these Trade Tick tools that we have, as well as the great analysis that we have from our analysts. We have great analysts in our group, Ava to Excalibur and Christian, as well as Moderna, and even the members that we have are great members. Again, we would love to see you. Reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to provide you with a discount coupon for your first month. Make it well worth it. And we'll see you there. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening.